York, Tokyo.
Yeah.
The model works for London,
Yes.
New York,
Yes.
Tokyo.
Yeah.
When we talk about less developed countries, Malawi, Kenya, Namibia, whatever,
Yeah.
it may not work. So no, I would not say that. I could not stand here and say with even 50% certainty that the stock market would be good in those places.
All right.
The basis for my research actually, are there investors in Africa, specifically those two countries, and who are they?
Mm.
I think it would probably take another dissertation, which right now I don't want to do, to answer should those markets be in Kenya or
Right.
South Africa. So I actually do agree. I agree with you. I mean, I don't think that it is necessary. But because it's there now, can it do some good? And that's probably
Right.
where we should go.
Okay. All right. Well, one other question at this stage. The potential success of this stock market driven approach to development in both Kenya and South Africa, it seems to me, you argue, is predicated on the rise of a black middle class. Professor Madawa's sort of question. So I'm piggybacking on that. There are many scholars who argue that class analysis is not, even in the modern time, is not relevant to Africa. That even the notion of working class, that the stratification system is sort of different. But if I take those two cases, which I know very well, the black middle class in South Africa is extremely thin. You have a few guys who have benefited from largesse of the ANC and so on, and doing very well. Members of the new professional class, who may be able to invest, but you do not have, I would argue, some people would disagree. You don't have a solid black middle class either among professionals or among entrepreneurs who would necessarily support a stock market, a growing stock market. Now there is a possibility that will happen. I don't think it has happened yet. That it's a will o' the wisp thinking that you have this so-called black middle class, however it's defined, which are going to invest in stock markets and other kinds of capitalist institutions. Now I'm not sure. I mean, right? That is debatable, I'm saying, and I would expect you to comment. I mean, my experience in Kenya. Oh, so sorry. Okay, just so I wanted to address this issue of the black middle class, either actual or potential, in South Africa, and how it is likely to contribute to stock market development.
In just South Africa or South Africa and Kenya?
Well, I wanted I'm going to ask the Kenya question in a different angle. I mean, Kenya give me this. I mean, I stay at the Hilton in Kenya. I walk down the Jomo Kenyatta Street, and I find a Chinese open market right there, not far from the Iberi slum, and the Chinese are dumping their goods. The Kenyan brother says to me, well, I I can't manufacture a pencil or an exercise book because the Chinese have it cheaply for me. So who is this stock market, serving? When there's a whole problem with the Kenyan business class, in terms of investment.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, that is what I wanted to do in terms of the so the model the model of a black middle class seems to fail, prima facie, both in South Africa and in Kenya.
So, again, well, actually, I don't want to completely disagree with you. But I do want to say that in South Africa, from the few interviews and the few questionnaires that I received and the answers that I got back from the questionnaires, there at least is what they perceive is a middle class. What they perceive. Not what I'm saying is a middle class, not what you were saying is a middle class. They think that there is a middle class. And so I would say, fine, there is a middle class. You said it. That's your thing. However thin it may be, however, especially relative to America's middle class, it is relatively thin, sure. Could the middle class, the black middle class, support, sustain stock market development? Probably not. But South Africa is a different case altogether, and we know this. We're not talking about just black people here. We're not talking about just black middle class. We're talking about a conglomerate of Afrikaners, Englishmen, or whomever. So that middle class there, and that stock market there, doesn't have to be solely supported by the black middle class. Now in Kenya, yes, I think that your question has merit. It's nothing. It wasn't what I covered specifically in my research. I just want to know who was investing and if you were investing. However, if I were to actually ask the question, can the Kenyan middle class support this newfound exuberance to the Nairobi Stock Exchange?
Right.
I would have to say emphatically, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. The quantitative data would not support that.
Right.
Qualitatively speaking, they believe that they have a middle class. They believe that their middle class is increasing. They believe that the stock market is growing their middle class.
Mostly Kikuyus.
So one question I did ask on the questionnaire, what ethnicity are you? I had a range of answers from 4 people, and everyone else just said black or African. So I don't know what that has to do. We need somebody else to do that dissertation. But I thought that was an interesting answer and response.
Okay. All right.
A couple of quick points, just recommendations for you. First of all, you have a section of definitions, and you've mixed in with your definitions a series of acronyms. And so I would like to see 2 different tables there, 1 acronyms and 2 definitions. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. 2, your footnotes, I get very pedantic about footnotes, but I've got some issues with your footnotes, and in some cases you use the P for page, in other cases you spell out the word page. There are periods that are missing, things. So I've made notes on your dissertations for corrections on those. A quick point, and you've actually raised it in your presentation, But on page 22 with the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, you talk about the historical development of the stock exchange, and I thought that would be a place where you could mention the fact that Africans were excluded from the stock exchange. You mentioned it later on in your dissertation, and I thought on page 22 where you first talk about the sort of, yeah, the background. So just add a sentence or so there. Now, you know, this last year or so, we've been getting a heavy dose of the Occupy Wall Street movement, and lots of discussion about class in this country. And I heard a term the other day that refers to the 99% of us. We're the pre-rich.
All right.
And I think that sort of captures this idea that we, a lot of us would aspire to more, but we're the pre-rich. But it brings me to a problem I have with one of your terms, which I think just goes all over the place. You use this term, the working middle class, and I have no idea what that is. And the way your definition goes, it's a socioeconomic class consisting of individuals who work for wages in the formal or informal economy, including skilled, unskilled, semi-skilled laborers and their families, and you interchangeably use it with middle class or working class. And in some cases you use this term working middle class, in other cases you use the term working class. And I just think it's a catch-all term that defies definition. There's no precision to it, from my perspective. But why did you use this particular term?
So let me say, Dr. Zoide mentioned that several times, and you are right. It is a term that I think most African scholars would have issue with, like you have issue with now. In all honesty, it is supposed to be a catch of not the super rich, not the rich, not the super poor, not the destitute. In the middle. It was supposed to catch that population. But when we talk about Africa, we talk about 54